Evolutionary.org podcast coming your way, episode 648. Today we have a special episode with 3xCharm. So his name on the forum, and it's titled The Recovery. And we're going to talk about his recovery that he's gone through and the way he was able to change his life. So you can go on the forum and check him out. The number three, the letter X, and then charm, like Lucky Charms, CHARM. So you can always search for any member on the top right by hitting the search button on evolution.org forums, and then it'll pop up. You can put in their name under user, and it'll pop up. And then in their signature, you can always find their logs that they've done. And 3X Charm is working on a log right now called Recovery Journal, and it's titled Sobriety Journal and Alcoholic's Journey. And you can check that out. It's always in his signature. So if you just pull up his post, you'll see it in his signature. So we want to remind everyone, first off, we are on Apple, we are on Spotify. Make sure you smash the like button and support the podcast. Sub, comment, like, all that good stuff that helps the podcast go. So first of all, 3X Charm, really appreciate you coming on. How you doing this morning or this
I'm good.
evening, your
Thanks, guys.
time?
It's evening my time. I'm great. Thanks, guys.
So first off, Mobster always on the
Yes.
when we bring in an interview, we want to thank you for coming on. So Mobster, go ahead and do that.
Listen, 3 times, especially for a new guest, Steve, never mind someone that's come back to these shows. These shows, and especially the shows where we interview members, cannot exist without those members taking the time to come on the shows and tell their story. They become very popular on the forums and very popular for people to listen to in terms of the impact and the way, as we discussed with 3 times in the pre-show, the way that we're able to help other people by telling a member's story and they're allowing that member to tell their own story. So that's super important. We're also focusing, and we've noticed this, especially the last, I'm going to say 3 months as we do this show, Steve, because we're into probably 3 months of doing these kind of shows, the community aspects of Evolutionary, and in fact, how some of those members are impacting other members, which we'll touch upon in this show, is grown enormously. Evo's always had a community and always had helpful people, but the last few months it's grown exponentially to the point where people are literally coming on to do these, to listen to these shows, to find out about people's journeys and helping them with journeys. And we can't make those things happen without people like yourself coming online, on the forums and in person to do this show. So we have to make sure that you understand how appreciated you are for doing so by us, by the moderators, by the bosses of the forum, but also by the rest of the community on Evolutionary. So on behalf of everybody, thank you very much for coming on today.
Thank you. Thank you to the whole Evo family. The support is amazing. I've loved being here so far, and you're all more than welcome to hear what I have to say, I guess.
Yeah, this is going to help a lot of people.
I'm just going to say, Steve, sorry, I just want to say something, all right? And look, we've actually become in a perverse way more open, myself included, in terms of some of the stresses and aggravations and particular journeys that some of us have undertaken at points in their life. Men are more capable of talking about those things, but also we understand that by telling our story, how helpful that is. So listen, that's the reason why you're getting the support. So let's start, Steve, with why 3 times is over in Manila, because we was under the impression he was there permanently, but you said that you're not 3 times. So tell us why you're in Manila and what that's like a little.
I would, in many ways, I would love to be here full time, and in some small ways, I wouldn't. But obviously, I'm here on holiday, family holiday. I've got family here. I married a Filipino. And yeah, we're just doing family holiday stuff. But in all honesty, it is being a bit of a. I actually said to my wife, a couple of days ago, I said I feel a bit selfish, because I'm sort of taking so much time for me. But there's a connective story to that too, obviously, because I'm in early recovery. I sort of still really do need to sort of focus on me. And there's sort of a very famous saying in steps-based programs that your sobriety or your recovery comes first. And it can seem selfish, especially to someone who isn't in it, or even your partner or your family members or whatever. But the reason why they say that is because you'll lose everything else if you don't make it, if it doesn't come first.
I
Uh,
have noticed, sorry to interrupt you, I have noticed that you actually made a comment, and we'll get into that as well, about your wife actually being, when you was having a few days ago, I think it was late last week, you was having a bit of a bad day, shall we put it? And your wife
yeah,
was the one that picked up on it, and you spoke to your sponsor. So we're going to get into that. So your wife
yeah,
is, like everybody else, you are getting into that thing where other people are actually helping you on that journey. So yes, it has to
yeah,
be you. People are helping you along there. But
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, just family holiday.
Okay.
Like I said, yeah, sorry, someone
So
going.
tell us a little bit about the Philippines. They speak mostly English, or do they speak kind of
Okay,
bilingual over there? How does that
so
work?
Metro Manila, which is basically there's sort of three major cities. I don't recall the third one, but there's Quezon City, which is where I'm staying at the moment, and then there's Manila itself. And basically, over time, they've grown so large in size that they've merged into each other. So it's sort of like a mega city. So, and they call that Metro Manila.
Oh
So
wow.
it's a very heavy populated place. When I first met my wife 10 years ago, the population I think was only 92 million, and it's already up to about 110 now. So in 10 years, they
wow.
have had a lot of people. They Yeah, I've always jokingly said if sleeping, having babies, and social media were Olympic events, Filipinos would win them every time. Like they're constantly,
Yeah. I think is
constantly.
it the Catholic background, which is why they
Okay,
have a lot of kids?
there's a mixture. There's a mixture there. Number one, abortion's illegal, so
Yeah.
the Catholic Church has a very heavy say in what happens here. So that rules that out. I know there is underground situations where you can make that happen, but I've heard
Yeah.
you can have that in the Arab world as well too. Places like Dubai, there is underground
Yeah.
hospitals. Um, but to your average Filipino, they couldn't afford it. Like there is a lot of poverty here. Not everyone's poor though, but it's extreme poverty, but it is poverty. Like you get a little bit blown away, a little bit taken back. If anyone wants to look it up on YouTube, there's a really good documentary on the slums of Manila on how
Yeah.
people live. I watched it probably about 5 years ago. I've seen where these people live. They're called squatters. If you remember, like the shanty towns from the
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the 20s and that, yeah, in
Yeah.
places
Yeah.
like yeah, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
these shanty towns that they live in. That's the
Yeah.
sort of vibe. Like
It's
yeah,
sad, yeah. And they keep
it's
having
I
kids.
didn't realize
Yeah.
Steve was 92 million fucking people. I thought it was
Yeah.
smaller than that. That's a big number.
Yeah. And they speak English is widely spoken,
okay,
correct?
yeah. So the main language is a language called Tagalog, and it's if you head out to the provinces, it's more common. The English isn't as good, but you could probably, like, as a tourist, you could probably survive somewhat in Metro Manila, though. You could probably be a tourist here and completely get away with English the whole time.
Mhm. And then the money goes a longer way. The Australian dollar goes
Yeah,
a very
yeah,
long
it
way there,
does.
right? You can like
Yeah, it
live
does.
like a king, right?
You could,
And the food is cheap and housing is
food's
cheap.
cheap, housing's cheap, everything's very, very cheap here.
Okay.
Yeah, like a can, like the drink I'm drinking now, it's a fruit juice, like a can of that's like 41 pesos, which is like $1. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't get fruit juice in Australia for that price that I'd be paying, probably.
And a steak dinner would be how much there? Like if we went out for a nice steak
Well,
dinner, nice steak dinner.
a decent steak would probably only cost you probably about $25. But, from an American perspective, the UK perspective, I don't know. But these days in Australia, dinner's like 50, $60, like.
Yeah.
So yeah, it
So
certainly
yeah,
goes. It
yeah,
goes, and when I say bucks, obviously I mean Australian dollars.
yeah.
So yeah, obviously the pound and the US dollar do a lot better than us, but
Okay.
yeah, it's cheap.
Yeah.
Um,
So you're staying in a hotel or are you staying with your in-laws?
I'm staying in an Airbnb.
Okay.
type arrangement, so an apartment. We've
Yeah.
stayed in hotels here in the past. This is actually the first time we've spent a long time in Manila. My wife's actually from a region called the province called Occidental Mindoro. It's actually quite a small island.
Hmm.
Um, Beautiful though, the white sands, the palm trees, all that sort of stuff. But once again, a bit of poverty there. This is the first time we've actually spent a whole lot of time in Manila. So it's a little bit of a new experience for me in that respect. Normally I'm used to living or staying in these provinces, but sort of, I don't know if you want to get onto the next topic with my
Sure.
drinking, because this is the first time I've been to the Philippines where I'm not
Yeah.
drinking the whole time, you know.
Yeah, so
So
let's get into it. Yeah, and we gotta give a shout out to Harley Guy, and maybe you could
yeah,
explain a little
100%.
bit your relationship with him. And Harley Guy is a guy who went through a lot of this. We've had him on the podcast at least two or three times, and he went
Yeah,
over his near-death experience from his addictions, and he's
yeah,
been helping you. So tell us about the relationship with Harley Guy. How did you meet him, first of all, and what has he done for you?
Yeah. For the listeners, what a sponsor is and what a sponsor does, and then specifically
yeah.
Harley Guy.
Okay, so in a steps-based program, you are very much encouraged to get a sponsor very early in the program. In a steps-based program, obviously there's steps, and you know, there's the first three steps are very, very easy for most people to understand. And when as you go down the list, it starts getting a little bit complicated. And or you need guidance. You need someone to tell you how to do them that's done them before. And I'm not doing steps work with him yet, but that's only because I'm on holidays.
Yeah,
But obviously, um, it must have been on my semaglutide post originally. I don't even I just sort of drop in and out of evolutionary. I haven't really taken it seriously up until very, very recently, and it's been
yeah,
more at
yeah,
the behest of Lev and Harley Guy.
yeah.
So he sort of just introduced himself and sort of, next thing you know, we're talking, and then he's just like, yeah, hey, have you got a sponsor? Which is an unusual relationship only because your sponsor's normally in the country you're in, and
Yeah.
you see them face to face. So I've got an unusual arrangement in that respect, him being in Canada, but he's been wonderful, like I I'll have an issue, or I basically come to him when I'm struggling, you know.
Yeah.
So um, I was struggling the other day, and the psychology, I don't know how you'd call it. It's not, yeah, the psychology behind the questions
Yes.
um obviously comes from someone who has a lot of experience, and they
Yeah.
ask the right questions. And he even says himself, like, I'm not gonna coddle you. I'm just gonna be direct with you, but he still tries to draw. It's tough love, but it's not like excessively tough, but it's definitely tough love.
He's
And
trying to put, is it, would I be right in thinking he's trying to, well, you mentioned psychology. So there's the thing of how you're feeling on that particular day and the reason why you're struggling, and
mm,
him trying to sort of nudge you, probably the right word,
yeah,
into the right
that was
direction,
better.
into the
Yeah.
right way of thinking. Give us, you don't have to be overly personal, but give us an example of how he did that. And again, this is for the benefit of other people listening. So let's just say you woke up that morning, Harley Guy, I really feel like I could fucking murder a fucking drink today. What
Yeah,
does he
yeah.
say to you? What does he do? What does he say?
Okay, so if you use that as an example, actually, that's probably not a poor example, but just like because the answer there would be don't drink. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah, yeah,
it would be just straight out don't drink. But example was, like last week, jumping on waiting at the airport. I'm getting annoyed, and there's a thing in AA or Alcoholics Anonymous called being a dry drunk. And basically, a dry drunk is someone that's behaving like they would if they were drunk, if they,
yes,
being
yes, yes.
angry or whatever, but you're not actually drinking. So I'm getting short with my wife. I'm getting short with my kids. Uh, Everything seems to be pissing me off. And he just, like he sort of put it into perspective. He's like, you have a look, at your behavior, have a look at how you're reacting at the moment. Think
Mm.
about all the bullshit you've put your fucking wife through,
Yeah.
and she still stands by you, and just puts things into perspective, gives it
Yeah.
clarity. Um, but in other ways too, like I could say something to him, and he'll just ask me, and how did it feel? Like an example would be, okay, it gets a little bit personable here, and I've got to keep my voice down a little bit here, but I was in a resort town a few days ago, and I entered a establishment with
Right.
certain, yeah, whatever, but yeah,
Professional ladies.
yes,
Yeah.
that's it,
Yeah.
and wasn't for what you think it's hard for me to say it, obviously, because the person's in the next room, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, a strip club. All right. So
Right.
and was offered something in the VIP room, and obviously said no, I love my wife, blah blah blah. But I did mention, I go, I was in there, and I was around alcohol, and he's just like, how did that make you feel? And what did you think when you looked at it? And just ask you questions like that. And there is a little bit of a right or wrong answer there, because if I said the wrong answer, he'd pull me up, and he'd be like, wrong answer, you've really got to look at it this way, or put this into perspective. But then the other night, I think I put on a post too that I was at a New Year's party with family, my nephew, who's very close in age to me. Um, just there's a bit of a backstory there. My wife's one of 13. They have a huge family. So
Wow.
obviously the oldest had kids, and at the same time she was born. Um, so yeah, so and he took me out, and everyone's just being friendly. That's another thing about Filipinos, are the most fucking friendly people in the world. No matter how much hardship they go through, you can't punch the smile off their face. They're just very pleasant people. Um, and it's the fireworks are going crazy. I don't know how it is in the States or the UK. I know the UK is a lot stricter than a lot similar to Australia in the strictness, but the fireworks are going crazy. Everyone's playing with fireworks. Everyone's having a good time. There's people
Mm.
revving the shit out of their motorbikes, and
Yeah.
like spinning tires. So it's this big, countdown. Everyone's going nuts, and then I go out and meet these friends. And of course, naturally, they're all offering shot, have a shot, and I'm
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
shot
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to
left,
say, trying
right,
to put a beer in your hand or something. Yeah.
and here's me politely saying, no, 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 I'm all right, thank you very much, and as I walked away, the thought did enter my head just for a second, and I said that I don't know if I said that on the forum, but I definitely said that to Harley
Oh my
guy.
God.
And he sort of pulled it out of me and was like, and how'd you feel? And blah, blah, blah. I gave him all the right answers, but I could have
Mm.
given him wrong answers. And he would have been like, you're playing with fire there. You got to avoid those situations, blah, blah, blah. Whereas this
Let me,
situation,
let me ask you a question, right? I mean,
yeah,
again, this is for the listeners' benefit as much as anything. A sponsor is someone who's been down this road before you. So the
100%.
part of the whole wrong answer, right answer kind of idea
Yeah.
is they know that they've given, for want of a better phrase, the wrong answer, even just to themselves in the past. They know
Yeah.
that when they've thought about it, what the right answer is. So when they're listening to you, they want to hear you go, they want to hear your mental process. They want you to play out what they've already played out. They want to get you to go to this kind of way of thinking. It's not making you think like a different person. It's just, listen, I thought this in the moment, but when I look back, I thought differently. And we want you to look back and know that you made the right decision. And here's the reasons why. But you need to do this for yourself. So they kind of lead you in that particular direction. But
Yeah.
you still need to be the person making those kind of decisions.
100,
And
yeah.
it's
Well,
the
you're not,
difficult, yeah, it's
yeah,
the
you keep,
difficult thing in the moment, like you said, that situation you described. Who wouldn't want to fucking be social and take a beer off of
yeah,
someone or have a shot or
naturally.
whatever? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Naturally. And that's the thing too, you got to remember he would have a sponsor, and
Yes,
he might have fucking five other people he sponsors in
yes.
Canada, next to
Mm.
him, seeing them several times a week, so everyone's got a sponsor. If you're doing the right thing, if you're taking the right steps, not the steps per se, but going down the right path,
Yeah,
you are literally it's this as they call it, a fellowship, a massive fellowship.
Yes.
Uh, like I went to a meeting here in Manila and I spotted the guy running it, and it was only one guy running it. There was no other people there, just me and him. But in order to introduce ourselves to each other, I said, "Excuse me, are you a friend of Bill W? Bill W is one of the creators of AA." That's a very
Right.
easy way for us to identify each other.
Right.
You're a friend of Bill W. He's long dead for a very, very long time, but that's just
But
the
they
way
know
we
what that means. Yeah. Yeah. It's a
see
sort of
it.
opening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does a sponsor have to be someone who had the issue previously, or can it be someone who's
Yeah.
just
It can't.
educated through?
No, well, that's a little bit like going to like a psychologist or a psychiatrist and talking about drinking. And in my personal experience, and this is 100% personal experience, those people, in per my opinion, so I'm not telling anyone how to live their life, that they can't help you, man. It's
So a sponsor has to have previous experience, or are you saying they
no,
should have personal experience?
they have to,
Okay, they
they
have
have
to.
to,
Okay.
Steve,
have to
Steve,
be
sorry
in.
to interrupt. Do you remember the show we did with Harley Guy, where I said that in the job that he'd done, and to a lesser degree the job I'd done, you didn't have then, but you do have now, people you can ring up to after you've had some massively
I
stressful
understand, buddy. If I'm
situation.
asking him,
Yeah, but sorry, the
yeah,
reason
yeah.
that it doesn't work,
Okay,
in my opinion, is the same reason.
yeah.
They lack
Oh,
the
I
experience.
agree. I just
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
clarify that. Yeah, I just
yeah.
wanted to clarify.
Training's
No,
great, but I think you need the experience too.
I agree. And a lot of
I agree with
psychologists are, they're like, "Oh, come back in 2 weeks, come back in 2 weeks." It's like a
you.
pay,
Yeah, fuck
it's like
it.
a payment. It's like one of those payment things they charge you monthly. It's a scam because they want to bring you back. It's like a business. Instead of solving the issue, they want to keep bringing you back every 2 weeks. So they
I was
solve
going to
issues.
say, and I'm going to ask you now 3 times on that basis alone, having someone that's been there, seen there, and done it gives it so much more value than someone that's
it
well
does.
trained, well spoken, because they literally know how you feel. They've been there, they've felt those emotions, they've had that struggle. They've not just read
The
the book.
whole the whole steps system, whether it be for NA, GA, which
Yeah,
is Gamblers Anonymous, any of the anonymous programs that are out there, because I've been into rehab 3 times now, and I've been to um, other types of meetings because I've been with inmates in those rehabs that have got those problems. Like it's not always
yeah,
just drunks together. It could be drug addicts and drunks, or there could be gamblers in the group, or
yeah,
depending on the facility. Some facilities are all alcohol, whatever. But I've been to different facilities. Um, and I've been to the other meetings, and they're exactly the same. I can walk into a GA or an NA and see uh, our addictions are exactly the same. There's no different,
mm, mm,
So the very fact that you need, like, you walk into a meeting, like, put it this way, early days, a lot of people don't like if you have a drinking problem or you have any problem, and most of the time it's you don't make that decision yourself. Most of the time you're getting pushed into the door by something. Your wife's threatening to leave you, your friends think you're a fuckwit, when you drink or
yeah,
for whatever reason, right? And some people might come to that conclusion themselves, but it's always not always, but 90% of the time, it's because your behavior is getting that bad that the
yeah,
people around you don't want to deal with you anymore. And
mm,
so you walk through the door, and you'll be sitting down, and you'll be like, "This is bullshit. What am I doing here? I don't want to do
yeah,
this." They often say in these meetings, first piece of advice is look for the similarities, not the differences,
yeah,
So if you sit your ass down in that seat and you just listen, your eyes will open. You'll be like, holy shit, I thought I was the
yeah,
only one that, or, and you hear horror stories, like I was in a meeting 6 months or 8 or longer than that. Yeah, maybe about 6 months ago. My old man's a recovering alcoholic as well. He's got 38 years. No, not 38 years, sorry. 34 years sobriety.
Good,
wow,
Um,
good.
yeah, and I went to a meeting with him, and this guy's standing up in front of a crowd, um, and basically the story was very run of the mill. I was a drunk, I was a mess, I was this, I was that, and then just casually just goes, and one night I was driving my semi and I plowed through someone. You're like, you
wow,
George, you're just like fuck, like that's
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Horrible,
that's
huh?
terrific, so. And in part of the
Sorry,
story too,
you
part of
said
that story.
something. Sorry, you said something just now, and I've actually told this story before as well. So my brother David was offered. This is the one that died of alcoholic acid ketoacidosis by too much alcohol in his system, so poisoning, the body couldn't get rid of it. And he was offered an opportunity to go into rehab by friends of our family, very good friends of our family, and couldn't get his head around the idea that he might be an alcoholic. And yet he
Yeah.
ends up dying of alcoholic ketoacidosis. So you go, listen, you can't understand it yourself, even though people are trying to help you, then you're definitely not seeing yourself. And when you go to these meetings, like you just said, you go, hang on, that's the same as me, that's the same as me, that's the same as me. I probably fucking am. But it's that level of taking it on board and accepting it and
Uh,
recognizing it and then acting on it, which is what you've done. You're acting on
yeah, I'm a little bit of a different case only because, and I'm not saying I'm anything special, but obviously I've got two uncles on both sides of the family that are addicts. And when I say addicts, I'm not clarifying what type of it is, but I can clarify they're both alcoholics. I've got a sister who's still actively an addict on drugs. I rarely see her. She's my older sister. I probably haven't talked to her in over 10 years.
Wow.
I've got obviously my father. I've got my grandfather was a massive, massive drinker. He was pretty well behaved though, but like addiction is very, very common in my family, and I knew for a long time that I had a problem because I knew the warning signs. I've grown up
it.
around
Let
the
me
warning.
let me let me take you then from. I'm going to start with what you just said, and then let you tell us the rest of the story. So there's an argument about nurture and nature. From what you just said, you were surrounded by people with addictive habits or personalities or traits.
So is
How
that
much
what
of an
got you
influence?
drinking at
Yes. How
14?
much of an influence
Yeah.
was that?
Okay, so
And
Or is
tell
it
us a bit
something
about your
else?
journey. Your journey
yeah,
as well. Yeah.
so statistically speaking, they say that the addiction thing's about 25% hereditary. So
Yeah.
if you have addiction in your family, there's a 25% chance that you'll end up the same way.
Right.
Um, but there's a science behind it too that I can go into a little bit later. But funnily enough, uh, an ID meeting, which as they call it in Australia, but it's actually the rest of the world call it identification. We call it ID. So an ID meeting is exactly what I'm about to do now, and all it is I just tell you my story.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've told this story many a time, in a meeting. So. Yeah, it was very normal. Australia has a very strong, or a very, I'll even call it a good drinking culture. Okay, we,
Yeah.
we like to have
Yeah.
we like to have a beer. We like to have a good time. Barbecues, warm weather, things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So um, yeah, I picked up a drink when I was 14, and funnily enough, the prices back then just so you know, cigarettes are very expensive in Australia. They always have been. They tax us through the year, but a night out on a Saturday night for me at 14 was $20. Mum would give me $20. I'd buy a pack of smokes for $10, and then I'd go three ways in a slab, which is also known as a carton of beer, so 24 beers. So that would be my 8 beers for the night.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, you'd go down the park because obviously it's illegal for you to drink at that age, and you'd be with guys and girls, your mates, and girls obviously around, which is always a great thing when you're a teenager.
Mm.
And yeah, and you go down there and you have a good time. And my drinking really was just recreational right through my teens. Like it wasn't a weeknight thing. It was just a Friday or a Saturday or both, depending on what was going on. You'd go out, you'd have a good time. And it was like that all the way up until 18. And then 18, I was legal age to go to pubs and clubs. So I started doing that. Once again, all still recreational, all still just having a good time, not out of control. In that era, party drugs were a big thing. So ecstasy was a big
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And I used to absolutely love doing ecstasy. Like that was a lot of fun for me. And I went through a stage where I did that probably for about 2 years, where I used to do that every weekend without fail. Once again, I still don't see myself back then as being out of control or anything. It was just all recreational, all having a good time. I was an active goer to the gym back then.
Mm.
Never any PEDs back then. It was just I was probably too frightened to take them back then. You hear all these, wank bullshit stories about roid rage and all this crazy stuff they tell you about. So yeah, I avoided them, but I used to go to the gym. I was very active with my diet and yeah, full of energy, full of beans. I could have a big night on the drugs and actually go to the gym the next day. Like that's how much pep I had back then.
Mm.
Um, and then it kept going, and then eventually I came across a lady that um, I was in high school with. We actually hated each other in high school, but
Yeah.
she, she had a wee one or a daughter herself. And anyway, she lured me in or hooked me in. I ended up with her,
Mm.
and yeah, so at that point, my drinking probably, I should probably add by that point, I was getting to the point where I was an everyday drinker around that
Right.
time. Um, but it wasn't too, I don't know what you want to call excess to the average person, like, if someone said 6 beers a night, someone would go, geez, that's a lot of beer, whereas for
Yeah.
me, that's just a sip, so.
Yeah. So how much were
That's
we talking at your max drinking?
All right,
Hard
so
liquor, beer, how much?
I was always a beer drinker. I sort of mixed in. I was a fan of Jim Beam and cola, so I'd have that as well too. Sort
So how
of
many
break up.
beers was a maximum that you ever did in one day, you think, plus the other
So
alcohol?
so if we're talking at my worst before probably the last maybe 12 months before I went into my first rehab,
Mm.
um, it would be a Friday afternoon. I'd start drinking. Drink all through probably up until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Get up in the morning around uh, 6 a.m. Because I'm used to getting up to those hours for work. Get up, start drinking. So go straight to the fridge, crack a beer,
Okay. Yeah.
and then drink all day, and then drink all through the night again. And then Sunday, wake up, do the same thing. So it was just
Let me
flat
let
chat.
me ask you a question. I'm just thinking of my dad as an example here. So, and it's the thought process as much as anything, rather than the
Mm,
addictive behavior. And you might be able to tell me the difference. My dad would get up early on a Sunday morning and peel the vegetables for the roast. And I think because he was only having 4 or 5 drinks a day at this point, so he wasn't drinking loads. But I think his thought process was because I'm up early and I'm doing this
mm,
thing for the family, I can have a beer early. Versus
yeah.
the idea of you getting up and having a beer just fucking for the idea of having a beer. So sort of what do you think that was for you? I need a beer. I'm up. I'm having a fucking beer. Or did you have like, oh, well, I can have a beer because of X, or I can have a beer because of Y? What was your thinking?
A lot of the time it was to kill off a hangover,
Yeah,
like you'd be hungover as shit, and that would be the best way
mm,
to get rid of it. And by the
yeah,
second or third beer, though, you're actually like pissed as you were the night before.
yeah,
Um, and in the case of your dad, like if he was just doing it on a Sunday, like yeah, a lot of people say, I'm sure it's lunchtime somewhere in the world, you know.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
if your dad's just getting up on a
It doesn't
Sunday,
have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be a lot of beer. It's the thing of, and I
no,
think my dad was an example because I don't think he was. I think he wore himself out a little bit, and he had a couple of strokes which didn't help. But there's this thing of, I think he got to the point where he couldn't drink a lot of beer, but he would still have to have 4 beers or 5 beers a day. That's not a lot, but it was again for me.
oh,
I'm not going to sit there drinking at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's just not something I'd fucking do, no matter what. I don't care
yeah.
what day of the week it is.
You probably have to go into it more, but it doesn't. 4 or 5 beers a day really isn't that bad health wise, as far as I'm concerned, from what I
No.
did to myself. And like
Talk,
I
talk a
also
bit.
found
Talk a
that,
bit about that. Talk about the impact that this is starting to have on you physically at that point.
oh yeah, for sure. So when you reach, like I'm 38 now, when you talking about drugs and alcohol and pep in my step in my 20s, like you
Yeah.
slow down considerably as you get older with this. Like it sort of really takes a life from you. And it doesn't stop you drinking though. Like you could be sitting there and being told you got a really fatty liver, which I've had before.
Yeah,
I've probably got it again now. Um, Meaning before I got 18 months of sobriety up about 18 months or so, or almost 2 years ago now. And I always had fatty liver every time I go in and see the
yeah,
doctor, have a blood test and blah, 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 always, you got a fatty liver. What do you think that's from? And they know the answer because they've asked me before, and I said, well, it's drinking, So, and at the end of the 18 months, before I picked up again, I actually went to the doctors and she's like, oh, your liver's looking a lot better at the moment, like you're actually within healthy range again.
wow.
So, yeah, so you can definitely, at least the liver can
Yes,
can
yes.
fight its way back. But you know, I noticed a lot of things, like you can feel my blood pressure. I was starting to get very red all the
Yeah,
time, which can become permanent. People, I see people in AA now that have 20 years sobriety and they're still red as a beetroot.
yeah.
So, or red as a tomato. I don't know if you guys call it a beetroot over there, but not the same thing, but just, red.
No, 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 I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the point I'm trying to make is, they're 20 years sober and they're still red because they drank to the point where it's permanent. They can't get rid of it.
You've got a
Um,
thing where you had the drinker's nose with the veins on the nose, the eyes sometimes,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the jaundice. You talked
yep,
about the energy, even the pallor of the skin.
yep.
You're literally, I mean, you've just mentioned this, and again, this is for the listeners. You literally know, you can feel in yourself because you know what you felt like before, the physical effects, and yet you're still doing the thing that's going to make those physical effects worse.
Nothing will stop you. Trust me. Nothing. I've got my my older sister's my half sister. Her uncle, who my dad was very, very close to, it's his daughter. He drank himself to death. He
Mm,
had severe liver disease by the
yeah,
time he got to hospital from drinking. And he's joined us. His stomach's the size of a beach ball, which is what
yeah,
happens when your liver starts to fail. And
mm,
all he did was sit there and beg for another drink.
mm.
So even
Yeah.
he's,
Yeah.
so you
What?
can
I have
literally
a
just
I
drink
have a
yourself to.
question. I'm sorry, Mobster. I have a question, guys.
Yeah.
What is the reason? Like, it's hard for me to understand this because I haven't. I think alcohol tastes like shit. The first time I had a beer, I can
Mm,
remember I had a couple guys come over to watch the game, and one of the guys, he was a big drinker. He brung a 6 pack of beer, and he put it in the kitchen. And I went to have a beer because that's what everyone else was doing, and I drank it, and it tasted like fucking shit. And I like spit it out. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And since then, I never drank beer. I used to drink like these malt liquor, like some of these fruity drinks and stuff like that in my early 20s. I haven't touched alcohol in 20 years. So
yeah.
in my perspective, I don't understand why people waste their hard-earned money on something that tastes like ass. So can you like dumb it down for me to
Yeah, I
understand? Is
can.
it a compulsion where you
No,
actually think it tastes good, or is it just the way you feel that
Oh, it's not the
dopamine rush?
taste, not the taste, man.
I'll give you an example. The first time I had beer, I absolutely hated it as well. You know what I mean? But it's beer's like sort of one of these things you got to learn to like, which is fucking
Yeah.
stupid. Like, why drink something that you got to learn to like?
Mm.
Um, and I find that
Yeah,
with like champagne. I still don't like champagne. I don't like wine. I think it tastes like
Yeah.
shit. I'm
yeah,
just like, and people love drinking that, so it's all an acquired taste. And then you have, literally an acquired taste, but you have like what we would call here lolly water. And lollies are candies or sweets.
Yeah.
So drinks that are very, very, it's the type of drinks that Sheila's would drink or women would drink, very sort of sodary, sweet,
yeah.
easy to drink, So there's
Steve, you've got all those fruit-based ciders now where they'll do cider and
Yeah,
blackcurrant
yeah.
because our
yeah,
palate as human beings in the Western world has become more sugary orientated. So they're making
Exactly,
their
yeah.
drink sweeter to
and
make it easier to drink, ironically, of
So
course.
3x, is it the buzz that keeps you coming back? What
yeah,
is it
so
specifically, or is it just the drowning out whatever the depression or whatever? What is the
touching. touching on, and this is not a professional opinion because I actually know the science behind addiction, but from the perspective of someone that's just enjoying a drink, a run-of-the-mill normal person that doesn't have an alcohol problem, is obviously alcohol does a lot of positive things
Yeah,
to the average person. So, number one, having a few drinks will, after a long day, it's a good way to unwind. You feel
yeah.
calm, like
Relaxing,
yeah,
relaxes you.
relax. You
Yeah,
feel, that you feel a bit of a relief, from
yeah.
that. And then also there's a social aspect. So a lot of
Yes.
people in AA will say that, I was a very shy person, or I never felt quite good in my own skin. And wow, here comes alcohol. And, it opened me up, and, like I could talk to girls now. And, so there's those aspects of it. It can bring, it can open, it can sort of take away these social barriers, these problems you might have,
Yeah,
when out socializing, and sort of, it's a little bit like ecstasy, you take ecstasy and everyone fucking loves each other, you know what I mean? Like everyone
Yeah.
yeah,
has
yeah,
friends
yeah.
now, you know what I mean? So that's obviously to another extreme, but from a perspective of just a casual drinker, and there is a lot of casual drinkers, but then,
Yeah.
like I said, there's a science behind it. There's statistics that go behind it. There's a lot of things that I've read into, um, and
Isn't there something, and I think Steve's actually mentioned this on another show, Steve, where we were talking about the quote unquote feel good hormones and the reward centers of the brain. And I think there was something which I don't understand completely, but it was something along the lines of whether, as you said, the background, family background, and people
yeah,
around you, as well as
yeah,
certain hormones and certain parts of the brain, which are slight, and I mean very slightly wired, ever so slightly differently. So certain people, not everybody, but certain
mm,
people are wired so that addictive type habits reward them and give them those hormones. Equally, and here's
yeah,
another example, Steve, and I suspect 3 times we'll know the answer to this as well. If you are coming from a stress situation, the idea of not feeling stress, not blitzing that stress away, not having to deal with some fucking psychological issue because you're drunk, is also
mm,
rewarding in a perverse kind of way. For people that
it is,
don't have
it
those
is,
traits,
and
it's very hard to understand how that feels. But people that do, it's almost innate, it's almost chemical in their behavior as well as
Sounds like
psychological.
it drowns out the pain that you're going through.
If you
it
are in
can,
that situation, Steve, yes,
can
my
do,
brother
yeah.
Dave would be a good example of that. Yeah,
It can at least give you a break or a pause. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like if
So
you're,
even if
for
it's a
example,
brief break, it's worth it. And then
yeah,
yeah. So that makes sense. Yeah.
but
It's a
if you,
vicious circle, Steve, because my brother's example
Yeah.
would be depression. So you treat the depression with alcohol, and then
with
arguably you feel bad on
depressant,
alcohol, you're making the
mind you,
depression
too.
worse. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Uh,
you haven't fixed the root problem,
So let's
alcohol
move.
is
Yeah.
actually a depressant too, so it actually
especially
makes
past a couple
you
of pints.
depressed.
What I'm going to
Yeah.
Yeah.
ask
That's
you,
that's
I'm going
that's
to ask
that's
you,
that's a good point. Yeah. So how
yeah, I'm
did you
going to
get
ask
all
you
this?
now. Sorry,
Yeah.
what made you start your first
Yeah.
rehab?
That's what I
What
was going to
made you want
ask.
to come away from that? Yeah,
So let's
what's
move.
made you
Yeah.
come
Let's
away?
let's
Yeah,
let's go more
I just
positive.
I
Let's
just
touch that. Yeah.
did
Go ahead.
want to touch on, because you did talk about the hormones and rewards,
Yes. Please
and
go ahead. Yeah.
give
well, go
everyone
for
a
it. Yeah,
very brief science lesson. There's a study done about 10 years ago, where they actually mapped the mind of addicts. They took addicts and put the like a cap on their head and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
MRIs and things like that to try and understand how it all actually works. Now, we have dopamine as our main reward, our
Yeah.
reward giver. All right. And the whole point of dopamine is like it's a survival mechanism. So
Yeah.
eating, learning to eat, if you strip us away back to our basic animal form,
Yes.
um, yeah, the reward there is the fact that, like eating is a reward. So your body's telling you, yeah, that's good for you. You need nutrients, you need to eat. Sleeping, like when you haven't had enough sleep, you know what I mean? So obviously the reward
Even
there.
isn't there one, for example, me and Steve have touched upon this, the men's hormone levels change when they become fathers because they want you not to go out shagging other women. They want you to stay home with the missus and look after the kids. So there's an
It's
actual
quite
chemical change in our
it,
brain
it's
that
it's quite
makes you want to
possible.
become, yeah, more daddy or more fatherly
Um,
like.
Well, funnily enough, too, like it's just as an example of that too, is that when when you fall in love with someone and
Mm.
you just can't get enough of them, you're just like, oh, I
Mm.
just want to fucking be with them all the time, and
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
you're constantly rooting or having sex,
yeah,
like
yeah.
you just can't get enough of them, like you just always want to be with them.
The so-called honeymoon period. Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. That's actually a hormone that gets
yeah.
released. It's a part of the pair, it's part of bonding. It's the pair bonding
Fair bonding,
hormone.
yeah.
And it's the exact same hormone it's excreted between mother and baby when the baby's born.
Yes.
So it's the exact same. You basically fall in love with your children, obviously not from
Oxytocin, oxytocin.
Yeah, I think that's what.
I don't know what the name of it is, but I just know that's the exact same
I
hormone.
think Steve's correct. I think it's a love hormone. I think something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sort of takes the romance and the beauty out of humanity when you think about it, because we are machines at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We're biomechanical or
Yeah.
biological
Animals.
machines, and but so the dopamine is our main reward center, or you get it when you have sex.
Yeah.
Dopamine's released when you achieve something. Dopamine's,
Yes.
it's your reward center. It's to tell you you're doing the right thing, or you know in many ways it tells you when you're doing, sorry, it happens when you're doing the wrong thing, which is the next part I'm going to get to.
Yeah.
So basically you have receptors in your brain that chew up this dopamine, and that's how it all functions. And what an addict does to themselves is they um, make those receptors, it dulls those receptors, because you're constantly getting this dopamine rush from whatever your poison is. And it gets to the point where average things or normal things aren't going to cut it anymore. They're not the dopamine release you need anymore. And it's so used to getting this dopamine release from your chosen poison. And gambling, sex, like I used to think sex addiction was a load of shit. It's not. It's 100% real.
Yeah.
I know that from using Tren.
Well, there you go. Yeah, well, right. So though you've got this release, that happens, and basically, from an alcoholic's perspective, you ha your poison now is alcohol. It's the only thing that keeps those dopamine receptors happy. So
Yeah.
every living moment of your life becomes ruled. You're a slave to your dopamine, but you're a slave to that poison too. So
Yeah.
you're constantly thinking about drinking. If you're not drinking, and even when you are drinking, you sit there and you look at and you got 6 beers in the fridge and you're like, fuck, I'm gonna run out. Where am I gonna get my next six? You know what I mean? And you're looking at the clock at lunchtime, and I finished work in 3 hours, I've got to get a drink into me. So it you've rewired your brain
Yeah.
into want this dopamine release all the time. And like I said, it rules your thoughts. So in the end, the only way to, as far as us 12 steppers are concerned, what we learn
Yeah.
is that total abstinence and time away from that is the only way you're going to save your life. And that is, in my personal experience, the absolute truth. You need to practice total abstinence. There's and don't quote me on the name, I think it's called the hedonic levels. It's basically where the first 18 months to 2 years, your brain has to get used to the idea of not having that release, the same
Yeah.
release anymore. And eventually it will come down to the where your life will get a bit easier. You won't be, it won't rule your thoughts. And I did get to a point where alcohol, I thought about it very little in the end of my 18 months of sobriety, but that's not as to say it does enter your head. And further to that, um, that's why we do go to these 12-step programs. You need to be reminded about how horrible life was while you were doing it.
Yeah.
And then one of the great things about AAs too is then you get to hear about how people's lives have gotten better. So they'll do exactly this story, what I just told you now. I started, I got bad, and then I got better, and then my life's so much better now for it. I'm not talking about me at the moment, but I'm just saying generally that's what you hear in an AA meeting, and it gives people hope. And when
Is
people
is
say,
is there an argument to be made for your good habits and the support you get at the meetings becoming a kind of reward behavior in and of itself.
I
Even
would
going
say
to the gym,
I
sorry,
would
even
say
going to the yeah, go on, even going to the gym, arguably when we've done the similar shows to this one, we've said one of the shows I think we said replacing a bad habit with a good habit. So
yeah.
going to the gym and feeling better about yourself and knowing that you're replacing the other activity with a better activity is a reward behavior too. So that might work. Do you think, or am I going away from
I
something,
believe
man?
so because a lot of people come to meetings and walk away a lot happier. All right. A lot of people
Mm,
come to meetings and say, I feel a lot better. Even after the first speaker, like you might hear 5 or 6 speakers in the entire meeting. And even after the first
mm,
speaker, the second person gets up, they're not talking shit. They just go, I feel so much better now after hearing that. So it's very possible that it has the same effect in that
yeah,
response or in that respect. Obviously, for me at the moment, because I'm in early recovery again, living or like I'm going to the gym twice a day. I'm
all
doing
right,
boxing twice a day. I
yeah,
couldn't do boxing twice a day one on one with a personal trainer back home because it'd be just too
mm,
expensive. It's cheaper here.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and it's really getting like I've never done boxing before that, right? So in the rehab's owned by a current world champion. He's an older gentleman. He's in his late 50s, so I don't know if that's something to write home about, but it's certainly, for a guy that was a severe heroin addict and alcoholic, he's come
wow,
along, done really, really well for himself. He's told us some horrific stories. He's been in and out of
mm,
jail. Like, so he's really turned his life around and he's been sober for about 25 years. Um, but yeah, so I was exposed to boxing in that rehab every morning and then we went to the gym in the afternoon. Now I mentioned before I was into the gym as a kid, but
yeah,
I've tried to pick it up over the years, but I have this problem with the gym where in actual fact I still have the problem at the moment. I kind of hate the gym. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to hope I catch that bug again that I had when I was in my 20s where I used to go to the gym and fucking love it. And that would be a
mm,
dopamine thing
mm,
as well too. You know what I mean?
mm,
Like but even my boxing coach, who has no understanding of addiction whatsoever, he's asking me questions and, constantly stopping himself and going, oh, I hope I'm not offending you and blah, 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 being very polite. And that's one thing too with addicts and people in 12-step programs. We're honest. We've got to get honest. We're not honest people per se, but we've got to be honest with ourselves. So,
yes,
telling people the truth about how much of a fuck up you are is just part of it. You know what I mean? And he's asked me questions and I told him the story about the other night with the drinks in my face and he even knew it straight away. Like it didn't take fucking an alcoholic or a drug addict or someone with experience. He goes, you'd be throwing all this away. He goes,
yes,
all this hard work you've done with me,
yes,
it sounds like you just go back to drinking and then you wouldn't
mm,
come here. And he hit the nail on the head. Like
yeah,
he's a 100% right. I will lose everything if I drink. My wife's not going to stay. I'm not going to keep going to the gym. I'm not going to keep going to boxing. And I love boxing now. Like I've fallen in love with it very, very quickly.
good,
Like I said, I'm trying to get that gym bug back where you
yeah,
rock up,
yeah,
absolutely love it. I'm
So
sure
doesn't it
you
make
guys.
sense to spend your time in the gym and not going out even on New Year's? Like I didn't go out for New Year's. I was in bed because the next
oh, fuck,
morning
man, I went to bed
I went
early.
I
How
went
dare you?
fishing the next day and I needed my rest. So do you think that it's a good idea for people listening to this who are going through what you went through to just avoid those social situations as hard as it is, especially because you said in
Early
Australia,
days, yes.
it's a
Early days,
culture
yes.
of
Yeah.
drinking. And they make drinking, this is another thing that really pisses me off, is these
Mm,
alcohol companies and these bars and these restaurants, they make in clubs, they make drinking look cool. And it's not cool,
100%. 100%.
you know?
There's an actual South Park episode where they it actually touches on the dopamine thing very well because it's Stan or Kyle that sits down with Satan and Satan explains that God gave you free will and I'm here to play with that. And he explains the whole, but there's dopamine and I think the episode was something related to addiction as well too. I know there was an episode too where Stan's dad thought he was an alcoholic, and it goes South Park crazy, like the story just fucking takes
yeah,
off
yeah,
from there.
yeah.
Always funny where they go with those stories, but
Mm.
Yeah, so obviously, you don't have to be a genius to know if you have a gambling problem, you're hardly going to work in a casino early days or ever for that matter. Or if you're an alcoholic, it's probably not a good idea to work behind a bar, and if you're an alcoholic at current stage where I'm at, walking into a bar isn't a very good idea. And they sell alcohol in convenience stores here. They don't in
Yeah.
Australia. We have things called bottle shops. I know in Canada they've got things called LBCs or something like that, or the LC, I think it's called. It's a government.
Off license is called here, so it's not a pub. It's literally just a place
Wow.
for beer or bottles. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And strangely enough, like touching on what you said about the making it seem cool. Like
Yes.
they actually do the South Park thing that they do a mock um,
Yeah.
drinking company, and it's like, girls, drinks, having a good time, fast cars, drinks, girls, drink, 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 like
Yeah.
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 um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Girls gone
and then
wild.
at the end of it, it goes drink responsibly. They know,
Yeah.
you're not going to fucking drink
Yeah.
responsibly,
Yeah,
Because
they
and
require you to do that by law. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
America, it's legal for them to advertise alcohol on TV, and it's always like scantily clad blonde bimbos in
yeah,
Yeah.
bikinis,
Yeah.
people
yeah,
having a good time. It's just hilarious. And then at the
they're
end,
not here. They're
please
not
drink
here. They're not allowed to do it.
responsibly. It's just,
Yeah.
it cracks me up every time. So that's funny that South Park made a parody of that. But yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
it's weird in America. Is cigarettes. They can't advertise cigarettes on TV, but they can advertise
Same, yeah.
alcohol.
So, yeah, well, they
And
can't advertise alcohol. They don't advertise alcohol, but sickly enough, gambling's a huge thing here, and they advertise like Bet
oh,
365
it's
or
bad now
Yeah.
in America.
Lad
The younger
Ladbrokes.
generation is so addicted
Yeah,
to gambling, and
yeah,
now you can gamble like on an app. And I know so many young guys that are doing it who don't even watch sports, but they're doing it
yeah.
because it's cool. The celebrity on TV, their actor, the athlete is actually on
It's
TV
evil.
advertising it. So we have to
That's evil.
stop. Yeah.
It's evil in
The highest paid executive in this country is a woman who persuaded her dad to allow her to open an online gambling company. He just had the actual bookshops, the bookies. And
yeah,
she said, "Can we go online, Dad?" And I believe a few years ago, she paid herself £240 million, so about 500 million US, and probably
yeah,
about 1,000 million Australian salary for that particular year. And that's from the online gambling stuff. Never mind the alcohol. The alcohol in this country is a little bit like Australia in that regards, in terms of the whole. It used to be in the 70s and 80s, they would literally have the girls shaking their hair, semi-naked, and spraying the beer onto them. And now
yeah.
it's almost the same, but they have to have that little disclaimer at the end that makes it almost like a, as you say, like a parody.
Yeah.
Where
So I
Well,
want
the
to
law
ask.
says they must include
I'll
that.
just I'll just give one
Yeah, go
or
ahead.
just
Yeah,
two
yeah,
part
we're getting
one.
up against the clock, guys, but yeah, carry
Yeah,
on for a minute or two. Yeah,
of just my bullshit anecdotes, but the last rehab I was in with an older gentleman that worked for Tata Sales, and Tata Sales is a very large gambling conglomerate in
yeah,
Australia,
yeah.
or massive company, and he actually told us that they know statistically, they're like from a business case, from understanding how the profits work within their company, they know
Mm.
statistically how many people are problem gamblers and how many people are casual gamblers, and it's something disgusting, like 80% of their customers are problem
Yes.
gamblers.
It is an issue.
And
Yeah.
on top of that as well too, alcohol companies know this information as well too.
Really, of course
To
they do.
take
Absolutely. Yeah.
to take it one step further, in a country like Australia where we pay very high taxes on alcohol, we have poker
And
machines
cigarettes.
in
Yeah.
pretty much every pub and bistro in the country. New South Wales, a state in Australia that I don't live in. I live in another state, but New South Wales alone has more poker machines than Las Vegas. Like that.
Wow.
And the taxes and the licensing to be able to have
Yes.
those machines is massive as well too.
Mm.
So really, what we're talking about here is our government is
Yes.
making money off the misery of its
Yeah.
citizens, or of its
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
that live in its country, live in our
And
country. Not
a few are getting rich off the misery as well that are out there that are
yeah.
able to operate these places.
So it's
Yeah.
evil. It's evil across the board. And gambling
Yeah.
for me, I've always hated gambling. Like I even from a very young age, I could see like gambling is solely set up as like they statistically know, like that's why you have oh so many numbers on a roulette table.
Mm.
That they know statistically in a game of craps how many times you're going to roll whatever you need to roll to win. In blackjack that there's card counting, so you try and beat them at a game that's already rigged, and they kick you out
Yeah,
of their casino.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
the
Yeah.
gambling to me is a
Yeah,
very
and just
simple.
just just on the alcohol one again, guys, just to
Yeah.
finish the show. One of the classic ones with alcohol is in terms of criminal behavior. And we all get this great idea of the war on drugs, that certain narcotic drugs are crazy, methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, how dangerous this is, the crimes and the criminal acts that are connected. But arguably, especially here in the UK, and I believe
Mm,
the same would apply to the US and Australia, more criminal acts of violence specifically, never mind anything else,
100%.
are done
100%.
under the influence of alcohol than any of the other drugs. And in terms of the
But it's legal,
poisons, the
you
reasons
know.
for going to ER or A&E, number one would be alcohol, and then all the other drugs are way down the fucking list in terms of the reasons for going to an emergency room for treatment. Number one
Yeah,
would be alcohol every single day, all day
100%.
long, and twice on Sunday. So yeah, it's crazy. Listen, we're right up against the buffers here, but there is time, I would think, Steve, for a show too, where we
Yeah.
can get
Well, I want to
into.
ask them one last
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
Those
go on.
out there who are suffering right now with addictions and they were where you were previously, what's some advice for them
Yes.
to get this turned around? What's your
And
final
and
advice
also,
for them?
Steve, why has been on the forum help just to finish the show?
Yeah, okay. So the forum obviously is very, very supportive, and it's very interesting to see how many quote unquote gym rats are addicts as well too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
or recovering addicts, however you want to call
yes,
them. But
yeah,
yeah, so it's very supportive. The Evo family is very supportive. I get nothing but positivity thrown my way. Um, Obviously, if I was doing something negative or doing something that was harmful to myself, hopefully, I would think everyone would start going, "You're being a dickhead," like
yeah,
that don't
yeah.
do it. And
I've already got ready. I'm ready to say it now.
yeah, no, no, that's good. That's good. So it's been good so far. I need the Evo family moving forward, because I've never really, and like you said, there really is enough information to keep going and do a second show, only because there was things that we didn't touch on.
Yeah,
So if you're interested in doing that, that'd be great. But um,
absolutely.
yeah, from my journey moving forward in what I want to achieve and where I want to go next, I'm going to need help, and this is the sort of help. I'm not saying it's bro science,
Mm.
because I got a lot of my information from bro science and it was all wrong. So we've got people that have obviously done this, done that. There's studies. Like there's Derek from More Plates, No Dates, or the other way around, More Plates, More Dates.
No, I think you're
Yeah,
right. I think you're right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like that. Like he really dives into it. And it's the same sort of thing with the forum. So, what was the second part of that question? I
So
lost
yeah,
it.
so ask coming onto the forum. I think I'll do it for you,
Oh
mate.
yeah, how does it help?
Don't be
Yeah,
afraid to ask for support. Don't be
yeah,
afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid
yeah.
to do these things and challenge yourself. And by all means, look, I'm sure 3xCharm will support us in me saying this. Coming onto the forum, putting your story out there. Don't be afraid, guys. If a bit of advice from 3xCharm, is he's asked for help, he's got help. He's
Yeah.
put his story out there, and we've been
So
supportive.
how can
So
other people get
yes,
help who are listening to this and need help right now, no matter where they are in the world? What's your advice for them?
It's very hard. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, as the old saying says, or
mm,
in my case, not make it drink. Um, so look, if you feel you have a problem, you just look at your life. That's all you got to do. You got to just look yourself in the mirror and go,
yeah,
am I actually happy? Is this doing it for me? Like, am I, like I already said, I grew up around addicts. I knew I was an alcoholic about 10 years ago, but
mm,
by that point, the disease had grabbed me, and I was just going to keep running with it. And there's a lot of lying and deceit that comes with being an addict. You'll constantly lie to yourself, you'll lie to everyone you love, you'll just lie, lie, lie. So have a good look at yourself in the mirror. Have a good think about, is this where I really want to be? If you're fucking living in a car, injecting yourself with drugs, you can't think to yourself this is normal. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And another big saying in our AA for me is the unacceptable has become acceptable. Think of the person you used to be and
yeah,
how and what you wouldn't do back then versus what you're doing now. So, and I hope I'm not sounding dictatorial there, or I'm shaking a finger at someone. I'm just saying to have a look where you were 10, 20 years ago. Look where you are now. Are you happy? Are you really happy? And if you're not, then do something, do so. And it's not easy said, or sorry, oh, just go do something about it. Just change your life. There is support out there. There is help out there. There is people that want to help you. We have 12-step programs where these people are going to be there with open arms and
yeah,
want to take care of you. They're gonna hear you at your worst. They're gonna cradle you back to good health as long as you invest yourself in these programs. So, me personally, I need to go to rehab. I don't go to rehab to um I go to rehab to dry out per se. Like I need time away from bottle shops as we call them, liquor stores.
yeah,
I need
yeah,
I need a rest from that. I need a rest from myself. I need control taken out of my hands a little bit for a while.
mm,
And when you get those 30 days or however long, some people are in for a lot longer than that. I know Steve-O, the guy from Jackass, he put himself in for something like almost like 18 months,
yeah,
but he had the money to do it. So, but yeah, just have a look at your life, have a look where you used to be, have a look at what it's doing to everyone around you, have a look at, is there people walking out of your life because they don't want to deal with you anymore? Like I hear endless stories of, like, you used to drink socially to have a good time and to be with your friends. Do you even do that anymore? Like I know I wasn't. I was drinking
mm.
all by myself.
Six in the morning. No, exactly.
And it is, as I said, they call it the great remover. You'll lose everything if you haven't
Mm,
lost everything already. So eventually you will. You'll lose your family, you'll lose your freedom if you're in prison. You'll lose your life if you get to the point where you become too
yeah,
ill from and then it kills you.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Exactly.
just have a good look at yourself and read the room, feel the temperature of the room and understand. Yeah, just it, you can't be you'll never be happy doing it. And that's not to if you can have a casual drink or if you can have a casual, nose booger, or if you can, there's even some people I've heard of that can have a casual fucking go at heroin, whatever. But um yeah, just look where you were 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or look at yourself at aged 18 and go, I'm not that person anymore. Like my life is being ruined, and that was what it was for me. I was ruining my life and everyone's life around me. So just don't be scared of those rooms, as we call it, the rooms, which is 12-step places. Don't just walk in. They'll never turn you away. Even when you even someone like me that's fucking busted so many times, and it's hard to walk back through the door because you feel like a dickhead. You're like, I drank again. They're not going to turn around and go, you're a dickhead. We don't
They're
want you
not. They're
here.
not going to throw you out. They're not going to
That's
refuse
it.
you. They
They're
still
not
want
going
you
to
to
say
exist. They still want to
you're
help
not
you.
you're not part of the club anymore. Like
Yeah.
I know we've got to go, but like a prime example, I knew a guy called Scottish John, obviously from Scotland. He met his wife in a rehab. They were together they've been married for 40 years, and they both stayed sober for 20 years, and she picked up again, and he stayed with her. He nursed her back to health, and she drank for the next 5 years. He put up with her for the next 5 years,
No.
because he loved her, and eventually she got sober again, and she's well again, and she's happy, and they're both happy, and they drive around Australia in a recreational vehicle, and
Yeah.
they're retired and happy. So don't be afraid of the rooms. If
Let's
you
let's bring you back on again soon, fella, so
yeah,
that we can continue with more of it. And I think that listen, there's been some really deep stuff today.
Yeah.
3xCharm has probably explained certain elements of the whole protocol better than we've had it explained before. So, he said he was worried pre-show about they've been able to explain these things. You've done a great job, fella. So thank you very much for coming on. Steve, any quick thoughts before I do the disclaimer?
Yeah, definitely go check out his log on the forum and reach out to him, right? 3X, they can reach out to you if they need some tips and advice, or reach out to
I,
you on the
I
on your
won't. I
log.
won't be giving. I won't be giving too much advice, but I know a
Yeah.
little bit, and I'll
You can
certainly
refer
try.
them over to Harley Guy and some of the other
Point
guys.
them in the
Yeah,
right direction. Yeah,
someone like Harley Guy would
Yeah.
be definitely a great person to speak to. He's really been
yeah.
in the trenches with it. Um,
Do
but I'll
you do
always.
you do you plan on in the future being a sponsor yourself?
It's early days for me, and
Yeah.
and a big part of the program, or big part of being in a 12-step program, is service. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
helping others and bringing our
Yeah.
message to
Yes.
other people.
So
So,
You're
hopefully,
doing that today, fella. You're doing
yeah.
that with this show. Trust me. People are going to
no,
listen
thank
to
you.
some parts of today's show. Listen, guys, let us know what you think. Come onto the forums. Check out 3X's log. I think it's been a very important and deep show today. Thank you again for coming on. And again, listen, we're doing more and more shows like this, which we really hope are out there helping people. So thank you very much for listening to the show as well, guys. Please note, we are not doctors and the opinions are ours. It is our view based on our experience and views on the topic. A podcast are for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.